Hello, my YouTube friends. I'm Gene Delasala with Audioholics, and we have a very special and final video to do on our CES 2018 recap. And we are here with our friend Marshall Guthrie. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Back to put a bow on this. There's certainly a ton to cover at CES, but we've got kind of our, at least for right now, we might do more in the future, but a little last minute look at amplifiers and processors and all the core brains and brawn of your home theater system.
Yeah, and you know, my mission for you, when I sent you on this away mission for me, I wanted you to investigate all the preamp processors and receivers that are coming out that are breaking the 7.1.4 barrier. Because, you know, 4 high channels just isn't enough. Why have 4 when you can have 6?
Well, and why have 6 when you can have 8 or 10? Where does the madness stop? I think at some point we have to ask ourselves.
It stops when you run out of wall space.
Yeah, yeah. Eventually, you'll live inside the speaker. You'll be surrounded by a speaker cabinet, and there'll be a little door you walk in and out every day.
Well, I think in the future we're going to probably have speakers underground when we run out of space. But that digresses. We'll leave that for another video topic. I think what I'd like to talk to you about is what's going on with these products, because typically before CES 2018, in order to break the 7.1.4 barrier, 4 high channels, you had to spend some big bucks. You had to go either to a Trinov or Datasat or Storm Audio, and you're talking about preamp processors and receivers that are in the range of about $20,000. So you're looking now at products from Marantz, Denon, and Emotiva that are, you know, a fourth of that price.
And what we're seeing is there's still even a little bit of a tier with that, whether you're looking at 13 channels or 16 channels. But I think we can safely say, and we'll dive into this, that any one of these should handle 99% of what folks are looking to do at home with immersive audio.
Yeah, I would say that 95% of the people buying these products aren't going to even use 90% of the capabilities of these products.
But you know, Audioholics, we love overkill. We love overkill. So let's jump right into it with the Sound United folks. We got 2 options from them, and that is the Denon and the Marantz. So let's go ahead and start with the Marantz.
Okay, so we've been waiting for Marantz to release an update of their processor, the the AV8802 last year. They refreshed it to an 8802A. They updated some of the HDMI on it. They gave you the Odyssey editor app. We were waiting to see what they were going to do to get beyond the 7.1.4 barrier, and sure enough, they came out with the AV8805. And what this is a 13.2 channel processor. It retails for $4,500, and it does everything the 8802 did, but now not only does it give you 2 more channels of processing, but it gives you more ability to hook up different types of height configurations, including support for wide channels. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of the guys that are doing beyond 7.1.4 really love to have wide. And until now, I mean, in the most mainstream products, you couldn't support wide channels for Atmos simultaneously while doing 4 overheads.
And you and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand. Just evolutionarily, our ears are pointed forward. We're very much more tuned with localizing information in front of us at the same plane of listening as our ears are. So in that regard, wides might actually be a better option for more folks trying to get a more realistic experience than extra height channels. Our ears are just going to be more sensitive to that.
I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, that's how we survive to escape predators, is by hearing in front of us, not so much behind and above us. Mm-hmm. But it is it's a tough pill to swallow to put wide channels. I mean, most people, unless you have sidewalls on both sides and you could put a maybe on-wall speaker, it's going to be difficult to implement a wide. But there are people that do it. You know, if you have the floor space, a dedicated theater room, or that, like I said, they have the wall, it's possible. And I've been to Odyssey demos when I went to their facility in California where they did a full wide 11.1 demo. And let me tell you, the wide channels really are a great thing to have if you could put it in your room. Nice that you have this option now.
Yeah, the good news is that with the Marantz being a 13.2 processor is that you can choose whichever one works best for you. You can go with the 6 overheads, you can go with the wide channels. Whichever one floats your boat, you can make it happen.
Correct. And another cool thing is people are always worried about obsolescence, and everybody knows we're getting ready to change HDMI yet again. HDMI 2.1 is going to be coming soon. We're going to be supporting 8K and, you know, all the stuff that's probably not going to be out in market for years, but it still gives people a fear if they're going to drop almost $5,000 on a product worry about this thing becoming a boat anchor in 3 or 4 years. Marantz is trying to ease that concern because they're offering, for anyone that's buying this product through an authorized dealer, they're offering a free hardware upgrade to HDMI 2.1 once the hardware chips come out and they have the daughter board to support it.
And I think that they were still trying to figure out exactly how this was going to work. They were trying to give us all information at CES to help us feel comfortable. But from what I understood talking with the folks at Marantz, is that what this is going to mean is you'll have to pack up your processor, you'll have to send it into a facility, but they said they found a facility that'll do a 2-day turnaround. So basically they'll overnight it there, get the work done the next day, and kick it right back to you. So it should be back in your home in 2-3 days. Your system won't be down for very long.
That's pretty impressive service there, guys. So if you do plan on doing something like that, take notes on how you have everything configured and save your processor settings. A lot of these products now, you could save on a file all the different configuration options you have, so you don't have to reset the whole equipment up again after you unplug it and plug it back in. So that's pretty cool.
This has the new Odyssey app, which allows for that. It makes it very simple, not only to back up your processor before you get it sent in to get that HDMI upgrade, but also just to create different setups for different areas in your room. It might be the type of thing that if you have a single listening environment, that your audio is tuned in a different way than if you have 6 or 8 or 10 people over for a movie night. And that Odyssey app that is compatible with this equipment makes it really easy to load those different audio configurations to suit your listening in a pretty short span. You're not having to drag that microphone out and run the whole setup routine over and over again.
And my favorite thing about the Odyssey editor app is you could limit the correction to just correct bass. Right at the room transition frequency, 300 to 400 hertz, you correct below that, because typically you don't want to EQ above that because the room becomes the dominant factor for the low frequencies, so you have to take care of that. But at the high frequencies, the speaker is the dominant factor, and EQ is just not as effective. Denon and Marantz finally got that, and that's why they've offered this, because Odyssey didn't actually offer this. This is something that Sound United through Denon and Marantz came out with on their own as kind of an upgrade option for people that just didn't want to do full bandwidth EQ.
Yep, and they really pushed Odyssey to make that change, and it's one of these things that when you listen to the consumers, you get a company that listens to consumers and gives people what they want, you wind up with a better product at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So, I think the coolest product that Sound United has come out with for 2018 is this new Denon AVR X8500 13.2 channel AV receiver. It's the world's first 13.2 channels, what they're saying. I looked it up. I couldn't find any other receivers that are 13 channels of built-in amplification. And more importantly, some of the stuff that they do in this product is pretty unique on the market. Nobody else has at this moment.
So one of the things that you also forgot is the H at the end of the model number. That means it is HEOS compatible. Not only do you get the Amazon Echo functionality, the A word that's in here as well, but you can go with their Sonos-like whole home solution with the HEOS equipment that's compatible with both Denon and Marantz equipment. And they're kind of looking to take over not just your main home theater room, but the rest of your house as well. And this Denon receiver not only controls and powers your home theater all the way up to your 13 channels, but also takes care of some of the other audio around the house as well.
Correct. And just so we could, for clarity, the Marantz 8805 also supports HEOS since it's under the same umbrella of products.
Correct.
So another cool thing I really like about this receiver is it's got the built-in 150 watts, 13 channel amplifiers. One thing I've always liked about Denon, or Denon, however you want to say it, it's always an ongoing thing with us. Their amplifier assignability is some of the most flexible in the industry. You don't just get fixed assignments for each channel or for how you're going to use the amplifiers. You can actually, they've got 4 sets of speaker outputs for the height channels, even though you only can run 3 pairs at a time. What this allows you to do is you could have 3 sets of overhead speakers. So if your emphasis is on Auro 3D, you could have a 5.1 bass layer, then you could have the front heights, rear heights, and height for the center channel and an overhead channel, and still wire up another pair of either top, middle, or another pair of overhead channels to support Atmos. So it's really giving you the ability to have optimal speaker configurations for all three formats, because again, Denon and Marantz are the only brand right now in this price category that supports all three immersive surround formats.
And if you're saying to yourself, that's way more immersive audio than I'm going to be putting in my home theater, but you do have some additional zones that you might consider, a second zone or a third zone, especially if you're using your external amplification. You want to run a huge, powerful amp. 150 watts isn't enough. It's enough for most people. But if 150 watts isn't enough for you and you're running a big outboard amp, those amp channels that are built into the Denon don't go unused. You can use those to power second zones as well.
Right, and also I forgot to mention, again, you could do wide channels on this product, just like in the Marantz preamp. Again, a very important thing for people that go beyond that 4 overhead channel barrier for immersive sound.
So Marantz and Denon are part of the same family. You can kind of see in terms of feature set, you're choosing between the preamp for about $4,500, the extra $500 if you go from the Marantz preamp at $4,500, you can go to the Denon with the amplifier, built-in amplification for about $500 more. They're both very good options depending on which direction people want to go in terms of onboard versus outboard amplification.
Yeah, and basically if you want balanced outputs and you want a little bit of a beefier preamp section, you go with the Marantz. I've tested Denon and Marantz receivers over the years, and they're one of the few companies that actually give you above 2 volts RMS through their preamp outputs. You'll get a lot of receivers at $1,000, and they give you the weakest preamp outputs. They barely will drive 1.5 volts without clipping. And what happens is when you mate these with amplifiers with low gain, you'll wind up clipping the preamp before you get to full power for the power amp. Never had that problem with the Denon. I've usually tested Denons that'll do 4 volts RMS out, and the Marantz tend to go even higher, so it's more than enough drive. But if you do want the lowest possible noise, in your system and have fully balanced outputs, you want to go with the preamp for the Marantz, and then you can open up options to do in separate power amps, especially if you have power hungry speakers. That's the way to go. But if you're going to have everything contained into one unit, I think the Denon looks like a great option for people. When you get to the $2,000 price range in Denon and up, their products are still made in their Japan facility, the same place where the venerable AVR8805 was made, that I used to love so much and I've had for so many years, and I shed a tear when I had to sell it because it became obsolete. But that was back in the days when Denon was making super receivers with the very highest build quality. So it's nice to know that their $2,000 products and up are still being built in that same facility.
And it's kind of tough to get excited about some preamps and processors and built-in amplification and AVRs. It just seems like every year it's the same thing plus a little bit more. So it's a few more channels, it's a few more features like HEOS or like Amazon Echo. But at the end of the day, I think of the Denon and Marantz brand kind of like your rock-solid Toyota Camry of cars, where every time you put in the key, you turn it on, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's fully outfitted, it has all the bells and whistles. Maybe they're not the flashiest game in town, but they're consistent and they're reliable, and you know that you're not really taking a chance with them, that you're going to get something definitely solid. They're a very reliable brand, and they create reliable products that are going to last you a long time.
And even more importantly than that is, I would say it's above a Camry, in fact, because they do give you some options that other brands don't always give you. Mm-hmm. For example, these products give you multiple subwoofer outputs. You could spend more money on, say, an Anthem AVM60 that gives you parallel sub outputs without independent control. These guys actually give you independent level control, independent delay and trim control. So that's very useful for doing multi-sub setups, to have that ability to do that. And Denon products in the $2,000 and up price range have always given you that, and I really appreciate that. And bass heads would really want to have a product like that as well.
Absolutely.
I guess the only thing I want to talk about now is the discrepancy in the weight of the AVR 8500.
Have we uncovered a conspiracy of some kind? Are we onto something, or is this just a typo?
Illuminati. I think so. Because if you look at their website, it says the thing weighs 39 pounds. And I'm always a stickler for that, because I always look to see if receiver companies are skimping on power supplies, as you see their successor models weigh less than their predecessor models, assuming they're still using the same kind of amplification and power supplies. Mm-hmm. And if you look online, and it makes sense if you look online, because the 7200 model is the same power rating as this model, just with 2 less amplifier channels, and it weighs 2 pounds less. That weighs 37 pounds. This one's supposed to weigh 39 pounds. But, and a big but, if you download the user manual, it says it weighs 51 pounds. And I'm thinking to myself, how is that possible when the chassis dimensions are very similar? They're both using E-cores, and it just doesn't add up to me. So I did send you out to go and try to pick one up at the trade show, but I don't think you had a scale with you, did you?
No, and I was saying that my back scale was probably a little bit off because I was hauling 50 pounds on my back all week. Lifting up a 39-pound processor at the time would have been like, this feels pretty light by comparison. So it's tough for me to say, but the math certainly winds up to say that maybe it's a 39-pound processor with 10 or 11 pounds of packaging wrapped around it to get to that 50-pound rating.
Yeah, and I did ask Denon, and they claimed it was 50 pounds, but that was through their PR company. So I guess what we're going to have to do is actually get one into house and to review it, and I'll put it on a scale, and I'll take a picture, and we'll do a follow-up video, and we'll finally put the nail in the coffin to figure out how much this receiver really weighs.
Yeah.
Moving on. What was the next kind of processor that you saw that broke the 7.1.4 barrier?
Well, we tried to really stay focused on new stuff that was out there. There were certainly a lot of people showing off a lot of different processors, AVRs, amplifiers, but we were looking for folks that were showing off new stuff, which was tough because CD had only happened a few months before. However, there was a surprise from the Emotiva folks. So Emotiva has an XMR1, which is an 11.2 AVR. So we just went from a 13.2 AVR to an 11.2 AVR, and you're saying, Marshall, I'm completely underwhelmed. This is 2 less channels. What could this possibly offer that the Denon and the Marantz doesn't? And one of the things that we know about Emotiva is they are big on amplification. They are big on giving you watts for your buck. And that's where this that's where this AVR stands out, is that these are 200 watts per channel amplification. So that's really where they're trying to distinguish themselves, by giving you the most watts for the dollar in an immersive audio format.
And to take it one step further, I wish I could disclose what amplifier module they're using, but they're using one of the best Class D amplifiers on the market from when I was talking to Dan Loftman, the president. I've been really digging into these Class D modules, and there's really only 2 or 3 ones that I would consider equivalent or sometimes even have an advantage over a linear amp. Obviously, in terms of efficiency, they're way more efficient, but a lot of Class Ds fall short in terms of how they perform based on load impedance, how they interact with the speaker. And there's only a couple of them on the market that don't behave badly, and Emotiva has chosen wisely. I hope in the months to come we could talk more about this, and I'd like to get one on the bench, because this is a significant advantage when you have Class D amplification with a good power supply that can drive speakers indiscriminately. You have a huge advantage for driving multiple channels, especially when you're hooking up 9 or 11 speakers, over a traditional linear supply that's running off of one outlet, basically.
And anybody that's watched me doing these videos for a while knows that I tend to skew towards the more modern. I'm pretty quick to jettison anything that feels a little bit outdated. And what I really appreciated about the design of this, just by looking at the back of this AVR, it is a very modern AVR. There are things that you're going to see that are going to be more on the cutting edge. There are 8 HDMI inputs, for instance. Almost everything that people use in their homes, the only thing I have in my home is running through HDMI or Toslink. There's a variety of Toslink optical connections. I don't remember how many exactly. You'll have to check out the photo. There are XLR inputs, so if you are running some high-end gear that has a balanced output and you want to run that into this AVR, you can do that. It has XLR outputs for the left, the center, and the right, and both subwoofers. So it's kind of a hybrid between what you would find in a high-end processor and a high-end AVR. What you will not find are composite outputs, composite inputs, component inputs, certainly no S-video. All the legacy garbage that tends to hang around for that one item, that one Laserdisc player that maybe somebody can't do without, you're not going to find that junk on here. So I will maybe make a controversial statement. I'm going to go on record saying good riddance. Get that crap out of here. If it doesn't attach via HDMI or some sort of digital connection, I don't want it. I know that'll be controversial to some, but it keeps the back of the unit looking clean, looking nice, and hopefully cuts down on some of the money that goes into those functions as opposed to the amplification or something that I'm actually going to use.
Yeah, I had to actually retire an old Xbox 360 that had component video because all the new processors coming out now are nixing the legacy connections. So, I mean, guys, it's time to embrace HDMI because that's where we are.
So while we were visiting Emotiva, even though we were trying to focus on things that were just newly announced, something they've been talking about for a year, I think since last CES, is their RMC1 processor. And a lot of people have been asking about this. And what I ended up getting was a demo of essentially the RMC kind of broken down into components. It was a development board, so not a production unit yet, but all of the guts that are going to go into the production unit splayed out. And what this wound up being was a 9-point, I think there were 2 subwoofers, either 1 or 2 subwoofers, doesn't matter. 9 regular channels and 6 overhead channels. So essentially 15 immersive audio channels. And they went through the Dolby demo. They showed that discrete channels were going to the appropriate speakers. Basically that the whole thing works. I think they wanted to assure people that it was legit. This wasn't all just smoke and mirrors, that this thing was actually coming out. And it did sound good. I debate a little bit about the needs of 6 overhead channels. I was much more interested in more wide channels and maybe more front heights for all the reasons we've already talked about. But if you do want the utmost in processing ability, including the ability to do multiple layouts for immersive audio, the Emotiva does look like it's going to be a great option with the 15 channels of processing. And
well, it will support the wide channels though, right?
Yeah, so I heard 9 channels, which is your standard 7-channel layout plus wide channels. So that was the 9 channels that I got on the floor, and then 6 overhead channels. That was what the demo was.
Okay.
Yeah. And I talked to the president, Dan Loffman. He was there for the demo, and he assured me, and I recorded this, I can quote him on this. He said, March, April is when the RMC1 will be shipping. So anybody that's been asking, when's the RMC1 coming out, from the president himself, he says March, April is the target frame.
That's great because we've been waiting a while, but I can understand this is a very complex product. One thing people may not also realize is this is one of the first products on the market that's going to have the new Shark processors from Analog Devices. I think it's the SC573 or something like that. These are the most powerful processors on the market. The Emotiva RMC1 employs 2 of them. And one thing I've learned when I'm looking at these high-end processors from the other brands that I mentioned before, the $20,000 ones, is yes, they give you the 20 channels of processing or 16 channels of processing. They give you very flexible bass management, but they don't give you an on-screen display, or they don't give you a remote control. It's all done via your iPad or through your computer. I guess that's kind of cool, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. I like seeing an on-screen display. It takes a lot of horsepower to do all this stuff with the on-screen display. Emotiva is the only product that's coming out that's doing all of this stuff that the $20,000 processors are doing and still giving you that on-screen consumer-friendly display that we're so familiar with the Japanese type receivers. So I think that speaks volumes that they're bridging the gap between custom integrated audio and consumer audio in one product. The other thing that they're doing that's really cool, and this is for guys like me that are running super large speakers. My reference towers, for example, have subwoofer built into them that go down to 15 hertz, usable bass, real bass. I like to run those large, and I like to run LFE to those speakers and still have a subwoofer channel. The problem is almost every product on the market, as soon as when you run a subwoofer channel, it won't route LFE to the main channels. Or if you run, you have to basically turn your subwoofer channel off and run everything through your front channels and then do your subwoofers through the front preamp outs and then do your own bass management. Emotiva gives you this option that you could run a traditional system, your traditional 11.1 or whatever you have, where you have a subwoofer channel with LFE going to it with your bass management, and you could still route your LFE to the main channels. This is something I've been asking Yamaha and Denon to do for like a decade, and they just won't do it because the market is too small for people that want this. But the point is, there are people like me out there putting these multi-$100,000 systems together that want more flexible bass management. Emotiva will allow you to route LFE to any speaker that's set large if you want it or not. And I think that is amazing. I can't wait to test that. That's like that's like having your cake and eating it too for me. The other thing, Marshall, that they're doing that's incredible is, yes, they have D-Rack Live. They have the latest version of D-Rack. And for those that are not big on room correction, that want to do it manually, this is where a lot of the other Japanese products fall flat on their face again. They don't give you manual PEQ, most of them. Emotiva, I think, is giving you 10 bands per channel of PEQ, fully adjustable, down to the bass frequencies. So if you want to go in and tune your bass for each channel, even at higher frequencies, you have that flexibility with this product. I can't stress how important that is, and the only products that I've found on the market that offer this kind of flexibility typically cost $20,000. Emotiva is giving it to you for $5,000.
They are definitely shooting for the value title when it comes to this processor. And if they live up to all the promises and all the hype, it could be a little bit of a game changer for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I know I just said a mouthful, guys, and I'm kind of like preaching a religion here, but I've been researching this stuff for like 4 months, so I'm really very excited to see this product come out, very excited to get it into the lab and test it out and just see if it lives up to what I'm hoping it lives up to.
All right, so we've been talking all about this new technology that's coming out, immersive audio. We've got 11 channels, 13 channels, 15 channels. It might seem kind of pedestrian to go back to the old school, but nothing beats just a good, solid amplifier. And one of our favorites that you tested recently, Gene, was the Monoprice Monolith series. It pretty much ticked off all the boxes, except when it came to inputs, it only had RCA inputs. For most folks, RCA inputs are all they need, but there's certainly a school out there that wants the XLR balanced inputs. So simple upgrade, but a very notable one. Monoprice has come out with a new line in their Monolith amplifier series. It's pretty much identical to the old amp. They just add balanced inputs. Nothing fancy, gets the job done. It's a $100 upcharge, and the old RCA only amps are still available right now, but something tells me that when they release this new line of balanced inputs with only a $100 difference, they're just going to phase out those RCA only inputs and go down to the RCA and XLR combo inputs for $100 more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's well worth the $100 upgrade, guys. If you're doing separates, most people that are doing separates already have balanced outputs on their pre-pros. So just get this version if you can, and it still has the great performance that we found in the prior model. It's based on ATI amplifier technology, as we said in our review. This is a time-tested design. It's flawless. It's bulletproof. It sounds great. It measures great. It is Class AB, so it's not as efficient as a Class D, but like I said prior, it's very hard to get a good Class D that performs as good as an AB. And there's only a handful of them right now that I've looked at, and they are kind of pricey, much more pricey than this amplifier. And these guys don't run too hot either. They run really cool. They've got good ventilation, and they're a great value. I mean, now that they have the balanced inputs, it's just icing on the cake again.
Yeah, they're going to run between $1,000 for the stereo, the 2-channel, all the way up to $1,600 for a 7-channel. So $1,600 for 7 channels of amplification. You look at dollars per channel of amplification, it's an amazing value.
Yeah, the only odd thing I could say about Monoprice is their value is far better when you go to the higher channel models than the 2-channel model. I think I did in my review. I commented that if you're going to buy this amplifier, try to buy like the 5-channel version or above. I mean, it's like if you buy the 2-channel version, you're just paying more per your channel.
Paying a lot for a chassis and paying a lot for a transformer that you're not going to take to its limits.
Yeah, get the 5-channel version at least, guys, and you could always, repurpose those amps, or you could buy amp your front speakers or something. It's for the few $100 more, it's well worth it in my opinion. You get a bigger power supply too.
So let me ask you this, Gene. Is this Monoprice amp right now the best value in amplifiers that's out there? What's the competition? What's Monoprice up against?
Well, Monoprice always is up against Emotiva. We have not tested the latest Gen 3 Emotiva amps, which have that SMPS power supply. I've heard good things about it. Then I saw some preliminary things in other reviews that weren't so great. So I can't put my stamp on saying that amp is equivalent to their Gen 2s, because it weighs about half as much as the Gen 2s, because they shrunk the power supply now to use an SMPS, which is a switching power supply. That is the wave of the future. Like I said, I think in the next 5 years or so, we're going to see more and more good Class Ds replacing the linear amplifiers, because a solid Class D amplifier has every advantage of an AB in terms of fidelity and in terms of being able to drive a loudspeaker, but it has a much bigger advantage in terms of efficiency. And when we start packing more and more channels, we get our channel densities up to do 11 speakers, 13 speakers, 15 speakers. You can't do this anymore with linear supplies and linear amplifiers. You're going to have to switch to something more efficient, or you're going to be running a space heater in your room.
Right. From a consumer perspective, I pay the electric bill. If I can shave a few kilowatt hours off my electric bill at the end of the year, I'm all for it. Not only that, but if I'm trying to get my equipment into a rack or in the new place, hopefully it's all going to go into a closet, I've already got to think about how many fans I need to run in that closet to keep everything cool. With Class D amplification, the answer is not very many, if at all. Those things run nice and cool, as opposed to AB, which is solid, don't get me wrong, and there's never any surprises. If you've got a good AB design, you know that it's going to do exactly what you want it to do. But the trade-off is you're going to be paying more on your electric bill, and you're going to need something to keep that thing cool or keep it out in the open.
Yeah, and I think the monoprice amplifier makes sense if you're doing 5 or 7 channel systems. But if you're starting to do systems that are 15 channels, 16 channels, there are other options on the market, like I said, that use, whether it's the Hypex or the Pascal Class D amplification, that have much higher channel density, smaller chassis, and you fit all those amps in there and you still get great power, reduce your heat, reduce your power bill, and it just makes a lot more sense when you're starting to do these higher channel speaker installs.
Well, that's what all we really picked out from the CES show when it came to processors and amplification. As always, there was a lot of other stuff there. Unfortunately, we can't cover everything. The show runs for 3 or 4 days on the show floor. I'd have to be here for 3 or 4 months to talk about everything that was out there. So as always, if a manufacturer is watching this and I stopped by but we didn't get you to the recap, it's just because there's a lot of stuff out there. Keep doing the good work, keep making good products, and we'll make sure that if we got a good solid product that stands out, you're going to see it here at Audioholics.
Absolutely, guys. And I think we pretty much wrapped up our CES coverage. I don't think we're going to be doing any more videos on this unless you have some weird gadgets or something you think is worthy of covering, Marshall. You tell me.
I'll sprinkle those in at some point. You know, I've got lots of other people that I stop by. I've got ideas, and maybe we'll throw this to the YouTube viewers. Look, we know that there's a lot of CES coverage out there. It covers a lot of different areas. CES is everything from self-folding washing machines that fold your clothes when you're done with them, to little robot kids singing in a chorus. I saw, I think, a trend of something that might interest Audioholics, and that's speakers that don't look like speakers, or speakers that are kind of hidden in other things that have some functionality. There's a lot of that's out there that I could certainly kind of highlight for the Audioholics, but we want to give you what you want. We see comments every once in a while that say, look, all we care about are big amplifiers and big speakers because we're Audioholics. I get that. I wonder also, though, if there's an audience out there that wants to hear about Google Assistant, that wants to hear about some tiny little fabric speaker the size of a softball. We're going to put it up against a full home theater system. There's room in our homes for both systems. But I'm going to leave it to you, the YouTube viewers. What do you want to see in terms of consumer audio of all shapes, all sizes, all functions? Let us know, and if I've got anything to talk about there, I'll make sure that we put it up on the channel for you.
Well, there you go, guys. It's up to you what we cover next on this. I'm pretty much done. I'm more of the audio guy, unless you've got something Star Trek or R2-D2 related to show me. I'm done as far as I'm concerned. So tell us what you like, guys. Tell us what you want to see. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and found it informative. Share it. Share the wealth. Comment below and keep us going. And until next time, keep listening.